In studio for a while is Mr. Scott Martinez. He is the president of the North Louisiana Economic Partnership. Mr. Scott, welcome back to KEEL. Dapper as always.
Thank you so much. I finally get to see the flag with the French fries.
It is, isn't it? Thanks to Jay Darden, he redesigned the Louisiana state flag, specifically the penguin's nest.
Right.
I know it's a pelican, but I say penguin. And if you look at the latest incarnation,
You can watch it on our Facebook live feed right now.
Over my shoulder,
right behind Robert.
The pelican's nest looks like French fries.
It does.
Going to read your email that you sent us last week because some interesting points. You said you'd been listening, that we'd been talking lately a lot about economic development, jobs, industries coming to Northwest Louisiana, specifically Shreveport. And you wrote here, some of the information is solid, but some has been hollow. As is my nature, let's start with the negative. What have you heard on this station from guest or guests with which you might not totally agree?
I don't think many people that have been on here, I don't think they have an understanding of what's actually happening in economic development in Shreveport and Northwest Louisiana.
Happening or not happening?
Happening. There's a lot of positive things happening in North Louisiana,
Fill us
and
in.
Northwest Louisiana in particular. We hear oftentimes about the General Motors facility and what's not happening there. Well, it's a large facility. There's, quite frankly, not a lot of end users for millions of square feet of space. That's pretty obvious. But what gets left out, no one ever talks about Globus Hyundai that's out there. Have you heard of anyone talk about that on this?
Well, they don't come in
Minimal.
trumpeting, but go ahead.
Well, there's 180 jobs that weren't there. They'll process over 100,000 Hyundai and Kia cars from Monterrey, Mexico, from West Point, Georgia, from Montgomery, Alabama, as well as South Korea through that facility. So there is commerce going out there. Is it at the level of General Motors having 3,500 direct employees there? No. But there is activity.
But don't you think that to some degree is because of the deal that the commissioners, that the Caddo Commission made?
Well, the deal that the Caddo Commission made was pretty much, from my perspective, a finance mechanism. They paid $7.5 million for an asset at the time. The commodity value of the building was $8.5 million, and got mineral rights and then retained some of the property. Whether you like the deal that was done or not, it was done by a majority of the Caddo Commission through the Industrial Development Board. Actually, the Industrial Development Board through the Caddo Commission. So the deal's there. Until the federal government took that facility, it was always in private ownership. So, and even with the deal that they have with Stuart Lichter and his group, IRG, the parish and the IDB will still reap, a benefit from that, even if it's just transactional. So, but I don't want to get hung up on that. There's other things happening here. I look at General Dynamics in Bossier City. They've got over 1,000 employees where they started at zero. Last week, I was in Atlanta with General Dynamics, and they got recognized with Bossier Parish Community College, Northwestern State, and Louisiana Tech for one of the best collaborations between business and higher education in the world.
And yet the Shreveport unemployment rate is what, 6-point-something percent, 6.1, 6.6?
Certainly higher than it should be.
And nationwide, it's what, 3.7 now.
Yeah.
So what can we do in this? What can anybody do? What can the next mayor do? What can people like you do to get it down into the fives?
Yeah, I think we have to continue working. There's been lots of things that have been said about there not being a plan. Well, we did a plan in 2014, and we've stuck to that plan. If you look just since 2014, and I'll give you the numbers, we've submitted 222 sites in Shreveport for 81 different projects. And there's often a comparison to Texas. I spent most of my career in economic development in Texas, from Round Rock, Texas. I was the economic development director there in the Austin market, to Conroe, Texas, in the Houston market. There are many inherent advantages that we have to compete against when it comes to Texas. First of all, it's unconstitutional to do a tax exemption unless you do specific things in the state of Louisiana. For instance, payments in lieu of taxes through the Industrial Development Board. In Texas, you've got 254 counties, and I would contend there are 254 different approaches to economic development. Mm-hmm. The counties and the municipalities...
And you see that as a good thing?
Yes, I love local control. That's the advantage that Texas has, and I'll go into a little bit more detail.
So what you're saying is, in a roundabout way, is that the Louisiana government, the state bureaucracy, hinders everybody.
Texas does things differently. I'll always side with local control. I'll always side with it. But you look at the powers that are granted counties and municipalities in Texas under chapters 380 and 381 of local government code, and they have broad powers to do economic development projects. For instance, I was in Round Rock, Texas. We did an IKEA store. Everyone knows the big blue and yellow IKEA store. I had a city councilman there that hated the concept. He didn't want a big blue and yellow box on the interstate. Blue and yellow, you put them together, they make green. That's what I concentrate on. But I was able to do a $5 million incentive that was a combination of sales tax rebates and property tax abatements until that value of that total incentive hit $5 million. That would be problematic for me to do in Louisiana. And we don't even have to go as far as Austin or Houston to see some of the things that we're competing against in East Texas. Well, for instance, they have the local option sales tax there. They typically can pass through the ballot. It's completely the choice of the citizens. I have sent levy for economic development. You look at communities like Longview, Texas. They probably have, last time I checked, over $6 million annually that's generated by that economic development sales tax. They're able to bond that money, develop industrial parks, and give cash incentives. We lost a project here in Shreveport, a 1.1 million square foot distribution center. They went to Longview. They got $7.5 million cash, plus free land.
What kinds of businesses should we be trying to attract to Shreveport?
I think our bread and butter is always going to be advanced manufacturing, and we've seen a tremendous growth in information technology. And I don't think that growth is limited to Bossier City. We've seen things, the revitalization of the Selber building in downtown Shreveport. I think there's a great opportunity in downtown Shreveport for tech companies, because you've got a great urban center there. I think if it's marketed and framed correctly, I think that's a tremendous opportunity given the telecommunications infrastructure. And we've got an element that's being developed in downtown Shreveport that hasn't been there before, and that's substantial residential development.